welcome everyone to this webinar on blockchain. And why am I starting on blockchain? Well, it underpins decentralized identity. And when I started looking at decentralized identity, I've realized that there was a lot of confusion out there as to exactly what blockchain was. Particularly as a techie, I found it really difficult to get a really clear and precise overview of how blockchain actually worked. So I decided to put together this guide, and I'm going to be looking at and starting with right at the beginning. We'll see where it came from, and I'm going to focus on Bitcoin network. The reason being, I need to focus and lock in on one particular implementation of blockchain. Otherwise, I think there'll be a degree of confusion. But hopefully by understanding the blockchain underneath Bitcoin, you'll understand the technology and you'll be able to look at other blockchains such as Ethereum, etc. So we're going to look at blockchain itself. We're going to look at where your money is in blockchain, because Bitcoin is all about transferring money. But in fact, if we think about it, it doesn't have to be a transaction involving money at all. It could be a transaction of identity. It could be a smart property. We could be moving and selling a car, all sorts of things that we can put in and actually transact via the blockchain transaction ledger. A little bit of cryptography, because we need to understand a few things in cryptography. And then I want to talk about spending your money, Bitcoin wallets, double spends, mining, and reaching consensus. So quite a lot of information to get through in just 1 hour. So let's get kicked off. In the beginning, there was white paper, and this white paper came out from Satoshi Nakamoto. And nobody really knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, but the white paper was about a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. The white paper is actually only 9 pages long, and it's well worth a read. And if you don't like reading about cryptography, you can leave those few references to cryptography out as you read it. So I'd highly recommend reading that paper. The first Bitcoins were actually created on the 3rd of January 2009. And Satoshi's proposal was really, he was concerned about centralized authority and the need for a financial institution when doing monetary transactions. And the proposal was to do monetary transactions peer-to-peer without the need of any financial institution. The reason being, of course, that financial institutions can impose restrictive rules and regulations. They can impose high transaction fees. They could reverse transactions after some form of mediation. And I'm sure you've all come back to, with a credit card, you've got this mechanism to do chargeback. So a transaction can be reversed back. And then, of course, transactions could be censored. We might not be able to send funds to that particular location or that particular entity. And then, of course, they can look at us as customers and decide they don't want us as a customer. And the other thing is, any financial institution could go bust. Another idea with the proposal was a degree of anonymity. And the idea was to create a payment system based on cryptographic proof, rather than depending on rules and regulations and procedures from third parties. So rather than having this sort of bank that decides what goes into a transaction ledger, what checks and balances are made on any funds that are transferred, we just trust in the maths. We create a transaction which is mathematically provable and can be mathematically validated. The implementation, it consists of a network of nodes, and all of these nodes talk peer-to-peer. And a computer that runs one of the nodes is referred to as a Bitcoin client. Now, the really important thing is that all nodes follow the same set of rules, and all nodes can validate activity on the network. It's open source, and it's very, very easy to run a software node. And you can actually run it yourself. You could download the software, and I put a link there to bitcoin.org where you can actually download the software and start up a node. You don't need an awful lot of computing power just to run a node. And when you run a node, what you've got is a copy of what is on the Bitcoin network. Now, if you want to start mining, that's a slightly different game, and we'll come to that. So transactions, what is a transaction? A transaction moves coins from A to B. So they transfer from us to another entity. And that transaction gets constructed in some way. And one of the ways of doing that is to use a Bitcoin wallet. And I'll come back on Bitcoin wallets and look at a bit more detail about those. But a wallet allows you to look at the coins you own and decide who to send those coins to. And when we do a transaction, we need to supply a small funding for it. There's a transaction fee. If we don't fund it, it's unlikely that our transaction will get built into the overall blockchain ledger. So if we look at a transaction, it goes across the network, and as it goes through the network, each node is actually mathematically validating that transaction. It's a very, very big network. Currently, and this is today, this morning at 9:26 GMT, there were 9,542 nodes online. And on that map, and I've given a reference to where you can find the map, you will see the sort of distribution of Bitcoin nodes. You see there's a large number in the United States, but also fair number in China and Canada. United Kingdom's not doing too badly either. Okay, so